Hello, and welcome to the debut of Offsides Season 28, BUTV10's professional sports talk show. I'm Seth Hellman.
And I'm Paige Monner. Today, our analysts Nick Bornstein, Alexander Cohen, and Harrison Friedman give their mid-season All-NBA picks.
And Jared Kaplan and Nick Talismanic discuss key MLB offseason moves.
To wrap things up, Matteo Venieri and Carroll discuss how they think QB-needy NFL franchises should attack this offseason.
All this and more, Offside starts right now.
As the NBA rapidly approaches the All-Star break, we here at Offsides thought we would take our turn at crafting an All-NBA team for the midseason. I'm here with Alexander Cohen and Harrison Friedman, who along with myself are going to take our turn at naming the best guard, forward, and center in the league so far. Afterwards, the rest of the Offsides cast and crew will vote on whose claims they found most convincing, and I'll announce the results for our final team. Alex, we're going to start with you. Tell us about the best guard in the NBA so far.
My guard has to easily be Damian Lillard. The Blazers are sitting at 18-13. They were just 18-10, and I would never have thought they'd be that high even with a healthy roster. They don't have CJ McCollum. They don't have Yusuf Nurkic, but they have Lillard. He's carrying them every night, and it's really impressive what they've done so far.
Ever since James Harden was traded to the Nets, he's been on fire. He's shooting his best percentage by far from three in his entire career. He's averaging 11 assists per game. Brooklyn is rolling right now, and it is all because James Harden is taking control.
I happen to think both of you guys are overthinking it. Steph Curry was the best point guard in the NBA before he got hurt. He's the best point guard in the NBA now, averaging 36-5, second most points per game in the league. He's dragged the Warriors into a playoff spot even without Klay Thompson. He's the best guard. Let's quickly move on to forwards. Alex, take it away.
My forward has to be someone we all love to make fun of, Paul George. But this isn't playoff P. This is regular season P. He's having one of the best seasons of his career. He's having one of his most efficient seasons ever. One of the best shooting seasons ever, really, so far. But he's really improved as a playmaker. So we'll see what happens later. But through midseason, he's far and away my best forward.
LeBron James has been dominating this entire season, and somehow at 36 years old, he's still doing it. Even without Anthony Davis, the Lakers still look great. Also, of course, with AD on the floor, LeBron and AD are just destroying teams. And LeBron has actually really developed a three-point shot now, which makes him even more dangerous in the postseason.
I can't discredit any of what Harrison said, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Kevin Durant. He came back from one of the toughest injuries in all of sports. He had to relearn how to walk, and he's carrying the Nets to a top seed in the East, possibly even an NBA championship. He's the leader of that team. Even with the great players he has around him, there's no doubt in my mind that he's the best forward in basketball today. It's time for centers. Alex, give us your best big man.
We've wanted this season from Joel Embiid every year of his career. It's finally here. He's in shape. Daryl Morey has fixed the roster to maximize it around him. And he's finally having an MVP-type season. And, because he's probably the MVP, he's easily my best center this year.
Okay, sure, but have you seen the passes that Nikola Jokic has made? Have you seen the shots that he's made? The twisting, turning, falling down, and somehow the ball still goes in? Jokic is dominating every single game he plays when he steps on the floor for Denver, and he's the only thing holding them afloat right now. I haven't seen a center like him since Arvydas Sabonis, and he didn't even play in the NBA till he was 36.
The last time I checked, the V in MVP stood for value. Well, valuable, I guess. But Anthony Davis provides the most value to his team out of any of the centers we've discussed so far. Look at the Lakers without him. LeBron James is phenomenal. He's the best player of all time. But without Anthony Davis, I should say, the Lakers aren't the same. He provides the most value to that team. There's no way we can talk about centers without discussing him first. With that, I'm going to stop down and let all of our Offsides cast and crew cast their ballots for the best guard, forward, and center in the NBA today. In just a moment, I'll tell you the results. I have in my hand the results for the Offsides All-NBA midseason team. Guard, Stephen Curry. Forward, LeBron James. And center, Joel Embiid. I can't complain about any of those, but I have to say I feel like there are some players who can make a big run at joining that team in the second half. Alex, do you have any names in mind?
My pick, Zion Williamson. He's finally remembering that he's pretty much unstoppable when he goes to the hoop. And even more exciting, he's playmaking like he was at Duke. So he's averaging like 27 and 5 over his last 20 games. So he could easily be on this list by the end of the year.
Speaking of a super skilled playmaker, Ben Simmons is also remembering that he can live at the hoop. He scored 42 points the other night. He is honestly incredible without Joel Embiid on the floor. And even with Embiid, the way that team is built, like you said, he actually works with him. And so I love what Simmons has done, and I think he can do even more over the course of the rest of the season.
A lot of the forwards in the NBA are haunted by two scary words, load management. But there's one that isn't. Julius Randle is an all-star. He's been having a phenomenal season. And under Coach Tom Thibodeau, who overworks his players a little bit, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Julius Randle's stats continue to improve and him to outlast the other forwards and join that All-NBA team by the end of the year. Before anyone has to think about me saying that too much, let's end this segment right here. Harrison, Alex, thank you very much. We'll regroup at the end of the season to see how our teams shake out.
It's late February, and in the world of Major League Baseball, that means pitchers and catchers reporting and spring training games right around the corner. Today, I'm joined by Nick Talismanic and Jared Kaplan to discuss their starting rotation of off-season moves. Nick and Jared each have 5 specific moves, ranked like the 5 members of a pitching rotation, and we'll go from 5 to 1, ending with their biggest moves of the offseason. Jared, take it away with your number 5 move of the offseason.
My fifth biggest move of the offseason is Tony La Russa becoming the new manager of the White Sox. Now, the word new is a bit contradictory here because he was the White Sox manager 36 years ago. He's 76 years old, and for an up-and-coming team like the White Sox, I'm not sure if it's the best move. It'll be interesting.
All right, my number 5 move is getting Marcell Ozuna back on the Atlanta Braves. The Braves have a window that has been wide open for the last few years, and it is still open. It's important the Braves do not take their foot off the pedal and keep a critical outfield player that they've had.
Yeah, I agree, Jared. I mean, Tony La Russa hasn't managed in a long time, and it's been decades, as you said, since he's been with Chicago. And Nick, Marcell Ozuna was one of the most important bats on the Braves' postseason run last year, so I agree. Good for them that he's sticking around. Jared, number 4, take it away.
My 4th biggest move of the offseason is George Springer becoming a Blue Jay. The former Astro outfielder is a very talented player. And along with a player like him and a third baseman like Vlad Guerrero Jr., the last time the Blue Jays had a team like that is when they had Jose Bautista and Josh Donaldson. That's the last time they won the AL East in 2015. And I think they could do it again.
My number 4 pick is JT Realmuto getting back on the Phillies. The Phillies are a team that have some time ahead of them before they start becoming the team to beat in the National League East again, but this is a contract for Realmuto that will help be a building block for the Phillies to be better in the future. He'll be a team leader for not only the players currently on the team, but the younger players that will come up to the Phillies as they start to develop their team again over the next few years.
I'm a huge fan of the George Springer addition, Jared. I think it's strengthening a strength for Toronto. They already have a great lineup, and they just made it a whole lot better. Nick, I'm not so sure I love the Realmuto signing. I respect the ranking since he is the best catcher in the league, but the Phillies continue to spend, and they're not making that much progress in the NL East. Jared, number 3, what do you got?
My number 3 pick is Trevor Bauer signing with the Dodgers. The Dodgers, who are just coming off a championship, go from a championship contender to a championship contender. This is really not as much as them adding, even though it definitely does. It's more about bringing other teams down because they didn't get a player like Bauer.
My number 3 pick is Nolan Arenado getting traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. Now I don't know what the Rockies were doing, trading their reigning MVP over to the St. Louis Cardinals. Not only that, but paying most of the contract for the Cardinals, so the Cardinals barely have to pay anything. This is essentially a rental almost for the St. Louis Cardinals, and they'll be able to get 1 year of a player who's really well. And I think this will really help the Cardinals potentially make some noise in their division this year.
Well, Nick, if the Cardinals are doing well, I would imagine Nolan Arenado is going to keep exercising the options in his deal. And I absolutely love the move for him. Things were getting really toxic in Colorado as he was vehemently against the direction the team was going. So he had to get out, and now he's off to St. Louis. And Jared, I love the Trevor Bauer signing. I'm kind of surprised that these two specific moves were ranked number 3. I think they were both pretty big. And the reigning Cy Young winner going to the reigning world champions, that's pretty big. But on to number 2, Jared. What do we got?
My second biggest move might not be as splashy as Bauer, but it says more about the organization. That's Blake Snell's trade to the Padres. The Padres are now have almost a super team that can compete with their division rival. They have Blake Snell to trade for Yu Darvish. They just extended Tatis. They have a really, really good lineup. While the Rays are going to do what they always do and try and just develop team and develop players and have the lowest payroll or one of the lowest payrolls in the MLB.
My number 2 pick is DJ LeMahieu coming back to the New York Yankees. Now the Yankees have been pretty good for a long time, and they're getting better, and they're close to striking that World Series they've been looking for. And it's important again for a team that's been good to keep their foot on the gas pedal and keep the players that have been working. And it's really important the Yankees got back the reigning batting champion, as well as some pitching they added. And I'm sure the Yankees, with this move, will be able to continue doing well.
Yeah, LeMahieu going back to the Yankees was huge for them. Their MVP over the last 2 seasons. That guy can hit anything and play any position in the infield. And now he'll be back for the rest of his prime. So every Yankee fan out there, including myself, should be pretty stoked. And Jared, the Blake Snell trade is one that I thought was only helping the Padres. I really don't understand why the Rays, the reigning American League champions, decided to trade away one of their best players and certainly arguably their best starting pitcher. But nevertheless, we've arrived at the top of our rotation. So Jared, you're up first with your biggest offseason move.
The biggest move this offseason for me was Steve Cohen buying the Mets organization. The New York Mets have been cursed with the Wilpon family for many years, and moving on from them is already a big plus. But in the short time Cohen's been the owner, they've traded for Francisco Lindor, they've signed James McCann, they've signed Taijuan Walker, they've made a lot of good moves, and they're building the team smart. I don't think this is just a move for this offseason. I think this is going to affect the baseball for decades.
Now, my number 1 pick, just like Steve Cohen coming to the Mets, is a move that's going to really set the culture forward for this team. I think the Dodgers re-signing Justin Turner, a player who's been in the league for a long time, but he's a player that has basically set the winning culture along with Corey Seager and Cody Bellinger with the Dodgers ever since he was on the team from 2016 on. And you can put in your Bowers, you can put in your bets to make the team better, but you have to keep the players that help set this franchise forward into a winning culture in order to add other players to get assimilated into the winning culture that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I expect them to do very well keeping the players that set the winning.
Yeah, Steve Cohen buying the Mets, that's huge. I mean, anytime you have an ownership change, that's definitely going to change the way things look with an organization. And they made moves right away, like you said, Jared, getting Francisco Lindor and all the other players they brought in via free agency. It's absolutely brilliant for them. And for their sake, I hope it translates into an NL East title because I can't imagine Met fans are going to be happy with anything less. And Nick, the Justin Turner move, that's a really interesting pick for number 1. But I like the argument that he is one of the leaders on that team and he sets the tone. So I can see where you're coming from ranking that number 1, especially after we've heard all the different moves from our 2 analysts here. And that's going to do it. Their starting rotations for the biggest moves of the offseason heading into the 2021 MLB season. Up next, some NFL.
The quarterback carousel is in full swing in the NFL, and today our analysts Ty Carroll and Matteo Venieri are going to give their takes on what quarterback-needy teams should do this offseason. Trade, draft, or stay. I'm Joe Pohoryles, and we're going to start with the Washington football team. Ty, trade, draft, or stay?
Thanks, Joe. For the Washington football team, I think it's a really easy decision. I'm going to go ahead and say trade. The defense is ready to win right now, as we've seen this season, and they need to capitalize while they have some of those first-round defensive linemen on rookie contracts. Ideally, you trade for one of the big dogs like Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, but my budget pick for the Washington football team is Marcus Mariota. I like Mariota a lot for the football team. He's on the last year of his contract. He has not much to lose, but everything to gain from establishing himself as the starter of a young, hungry team that only lost by 8 points to the Super Bowl winning Buccaneers in the wild card round. People also forget that Mariota was the 2nd overall pick in 2015. If he can adapt to Rivera's scheme with Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas to throw to, I think Mariota could be a great fit to complement the Washington defense.
Yeah, as a Washington football fan myself, I'd hate to break up that defensive line, so a cheap, high-upside player to come in and compete sounds pretty good to me. Now we're going to move down to Dallas, where the Cowboys are in a standoff with Dak Prescott. Matteo, trade, draft, or stay?
Tag and trade. No player in the NFL has been as hard to evaluate as Dak Prescott in recent years. Yes, he never had a losing record, but has only a single playoff win on a Dallas team loaded with talent. And on top of that, he just suffered a serious injury. Last season, it was reported that he turned down $175 million, and now likely his value has increased. However, paying him top dollar means thinking that he can compensate for the loss of talent that Dallas would suffer in other areas, and I just don't think he's that guy. Tag him now and trade him to the Jets for the second overall pick and a little extra on the side.
I'd be surprised if Dallas hits the reset button, but if they have to move on from Prescott, that does seem like a solid way to go. Staying in the NFC East, Ty, should the Philadelphia Eagles trade, draft, or stay?
Yeah, this might be a little controversial of an opinion, but with the Eagles, I'm going with stay. Jalen Hurts showed glimpses of stardom this season, and they need to address other positions much more desperately in the draft. Seeing what happened with Wentz, I don't see many Eagles fans ready to jump in bed with another high-round quarterback that they have to mortgage the farm for. With Wentz gone, they need to have confidence in Hurts moving forward if they want him to develop into a quarterback number one. Stick with Jalen Hurts, see what you have over a whole season. That's my verdict.
Yeah, Hurts showed some flashes last season, so not the worst move if you're Philly. As for his former Alabama teammate Tua Tagovailoa, the situation's much murkier. Matteo, should the Dolphins trade, draft, or stay?
I think they should trade. This is not an easy choice because Tua Tagovailoa could easily become a superstar in the near future. The problem is that there's a player on the market who right now is already a superstar, and that's Deshaun Watson. Last year, the Dolphins were a legitimate playoff contender for several weeks, and might be just a few pieces away from being Super Bowl contender too. Now, Miami has the resources in place to make the best offer that Houston can get. The Texans start their rebuilding with a young quarterback and a package of first and second round picks, and the Dolphins finally get their first true franchise quarterback since Dan Marino.
It seems like Miami's also in the mix for Russell Wilson if the Seahawks decide to move on from him, so I can't wait to see how that unfolds this offseason. Finally, I'm going to kick it to both of you for the local team, the New England Patriots. With Cam Newton a free agent, trade, draft, or stay?
Yeah, I got to go draft for the Patriots here. I mean, Cam did not live up to expectations. They need to restart with someone Belichick can mold. I would target Mac Jones out of Alabama in the draft.
Yeah, I think they should sign somebody, really anybody. Now, I agree that it's okay at this point to say that, yeah, Cam Newton is done and Jarrett Stidham is just no good. But the Patriots collectively can still be relevant in the AFC. I mean, after all, last season they lost a ton of players in free agency or because of COVID. They still managed to go 7-9. Now, considering the age of the roster and of some key players, if I were Belichick, I'd rather sign a proven quarterback than a rookie. My suggestion, go get Derek Carr.
Yeah, after this season unfolded for the Patriots, both are valid routes for Bill Belichick to go. That'll do it for us today in the NFL for trade, draft, or stay. I'm Joe Pohoryles. We're going to kick it back to Seth and Paige.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Offsides. It feels great to be back recording.
It sure does, Paige. And what a great job by our analysts today. Their picks were absolutely spot on.
Yes, they were indeed. Well, that concludes the debut episode of Offsides Season 28. If you're interested in joining our team or learning more, please email us at offsides@butv10.com.
And be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Offsides10.
We'd love to keep the conversation going, so make sure you tweet at us, letting us know your thoughts on today's episode. On behalf of our entire cast and crew, thanks for watching and have a good night.
It's intercepted.